Hello and welcome to Tata Projects India at 100 Growing Responsibly and Safely Season 3. This series is going to highlight on our commitment to sustainable and prosperous India by 2047. And for this episode, we are going to discuss on the pivotal role of green materials in construction industry for a sustainable future. Traditional construction materials like concrete and steel contribute significantly to global carbon emissions. Construction activities worldwide consume approximately 3 billion tons of raw materials annually, accounting for 40% of global usage. And with this accelerated rate of climate change, the urgency for sustainable building practices has never been greater. Tata Projects is taking charge and adapting to the need of the hour. It is constantly increasing the usage of green materials in the construction sites, thus reducing the depletion of natural resources. And to shed light on this, today we have Dr. Debashish Bhattacharjee with us, who is a former Vice President of Technology and R&D at Tata Steel, the founder partner of Lionsgate Venture Capital, the member of the Technology Development Board, Department of Science and Technology with the Government of India, professor at IIT Madras, International Fellow of the Royal Academy of Engineering. Thanks, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Amarjeet. Thank you for having me here. It's a great delight.
Thank you. When I talk about the group, especially the Tata Group, okay, so advocating and adapting to the sustainable practices, we are doing it from years, okay? But when it comes to the EPC industry, it's slightly more challenging and, it's little unique to other industries. So when it comes to sourcing these green materials, what do you think are the key challenges?
You're very correct, Amarjeet. The Tata Group has been at the forefront, not only in India, but across the world in driving green initiatives, sustainable initiatives. But then construction and EPC, like steel, like aviation, it's a difficult to abate sector. True. The sector has been trying to take initiatives to make itself green. The awareness about green, about sustainability is not that old. It's about 7-8 years old. Yes. So the materials, the supply chain, the production volumes are not in place yet. The green hydrogen, amount of green hydrogen that is required is just not available. Batteries are still expensive and still made of high carbon dioxide footprint materials. So who's going to bear this extra cost? When you are in the construction industry, you depend wholly on codes, on regulations. Now these codes to change need a lot of data. Generation of data is much slower than the demand for green solutions. And unless the codes are changed, a large-scale adoption of green technologies will not be possible. The fourth point, after cost, availability, and regulations, is how do you train people? How do you integrate all of this? People at the ground are used to handling, the regular way of handling materials and technologies, the legacy way. But in order to bring in new technologies, the greener technologies, sustainable materials, you need to train a whole set of people who are going to go in and enable these technologies to be implemented. So these are the key challenges that we see facing the construction and EPC.
Rightly said. Debashish, then, when given the gravity of such kind of situations, overcoming such things require definitely in-depth understanding of everything. You talk about the supply chain, industry, stakeholders. Every part needs to be tackled very properly. And then what would be the key actions which have already been taken, to double this content of recycling and renewable energies?
We are not standing still, right? Over the last 4-5 years, take 2020 as the baseline, a lot of new initiatives have been taken, new materials have been introduced. These initiatives have helped not only us, but also construction industry in India in bringing down its CO2 footprint. In fact, the construction in India has a lower footprint than the global average.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is in spite of not having green cement. And it's essentially because our material has more blends of fly ash, of GGBS, of slag cement, etc., which is enabled by us having contradictorily more thermal power plants, because the fly ash is available in volumes which can then be used to decarbonize the construction sector. So availability of these has enabled more mix of this in our construction materials. But much more needs to be done. If I look at what is happening across the world in development-wise, people are breaking new grounds and finding out completely new materials for construction. One is an old material called timber.
Yes, yes.
Yeah? Timber, we think, is non-renewable, is deleterious to the environment, but there are parts of the world where timber is thought to be renewable. You can just plant another tree. But more recently, I came across an idea where they're looking at bringing new technology, bio-based binders into clay and making compressed clay blocks instead of fired bricks, and using age-old non-mortar binding techniques, joining the blocks. So this would dramatically reduce CO2 footprint of constructions by, say, about 80 to 90%. Ceramic tiles, one of the largest volume material used inside the construction, are now being manufactured at a small scale, but still these are commercial, using recycled ceramics, using bio-based binders. Again, significantly enabling waste recycling and reduction of CO2 footprint. So while we have done a lot in bringing in new fly ash-based bricks, RoboSand, new materials, a lot more needs to be done and can be done in seeing around what's happening in the world and bringing these ideas and implementing in our efforts.
Apart from green sourcing and green cement production, steel is very crucial. It comes in all my construction part. Can you tell me something about green steel? What is this green steel? What is the myth around it? And how Tata Steel has moved towards this production?
You've got me the home ground. This will need more explanation. So can we talk about this over coffee?
Yes, please.
They make good coffee here. So we were talking about steel.
Yes.
You know how much man-made carbon dioxide is made every year?
No.
53 gigatons. That's quite a large number. And out of those 53 gigatons, about 7 to 8% comes from the steel industry.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot, right? And of course, as we spoke, EPC construction is a difficult to abate sector. So is steel a difficult to abate sector. But of course, the steel industry, including Tata Steel, is very aware of it, and they want to make sure that we have actions afoot to reduce our CO2 footprint. Okay. Right? So we try multiple things. Tata Steel tries multiple things. So some part of CO2 reduction will happen by introduction of, say, natural gas. Natural gas is methane, which is CH4. So for every carbon, there is 4 hydrogen. Okay. That's a solution, only that India doesn't have enough natural gas. Right? The other is recycling. Right? So you can take scrap, remelt it. Now we are not using iron ore. So this is steel being remelted. So the whole problem of CO2 by taking the oxygen out from iron ore is gone. All it needs is energy for remelting. So Tata Steel has set up a scrap handling, scrap remelting facility, and is going to set up more. So we are pioneers in that field. Problem in India is that there is not enough scrap. India makes about 150 million tons of steel. Scrap availability is about 25 to 30 million tons. So we have to have recourse to multiple techniques. Tata Steel has carried out live experiments in running blast furnaces by introducing hydrogen in the blast furnace. Largest experiment in the world. Tata Steel has put up pilot plants for carbon capture and utilization of that carbon dioxide rather than putting it back into the air. So fixing that CO2. It has multiple other initiatives that will eventually go and help in reducing the CO2 footprint. It has a significant program in reuse of waste, use of slag into making soil conditioners, for example, in large scale. So there are some efforts which are already commercial, or commercially active, such as scrap handling and scrap based. So that will increase in size. And there are some efforts which are being scaled up, which will in the next 5-10 years come online. And that is the time scale that the whole world is working on, right? So these are some of the efforts and some of the directions in which Tata Steel and also the rest of the steel industry is moving to decarbonize a very difficult to decarbonize sector.
When it comes to adoption of green alternatives in construction, what is the key theme which everyone need to have in our mind?
Yeah. Adoption of green technologies, sustainable technologies is difficult, is expensive, is time consuming, but not an option. In order to make our world a place which is sustainable for human beings, for human life, it is a responsibility that we all have. I'll just leave you with a picture, a word picture. Today, the world has amount of CO2 in the atmosphere about 450 parts per million. And it is becoming warmer, everyone sees the effect. The world has been warmer before. The world has had about 1,600 parts per million, 4 times higher than today. The world was significantly warmer. There was no ice in the Arctic. There were alligators sunbathing in the Arctic. So there was life on Earth, but at that time there were no humans. So the Earth will take care of itself. Biodiversity will take care of itself. Only thing, the human beings, we have to take care of ourselves and therefore reduce our CO2 footprint, make the world more sustainable for our habitat. And therefore, it is extremely important that all industries, all agencies, institutions, and corporates, in collaboration and individually, make efforts to reduce CO2 footprint, to recycle waste, and make the world more sustainable for human beings. Thank you.
Thank you, Debashish. Thank you very much for those valuable insights. It's very inspiring and very reassuring when we look back and see that how Tata Projects and Tata Steel, they all are working towards a sustainable future in the construction industry. As said, definitely it demands money, investments into technology. It demands a different mindset which has to be totally shifted towards sustainability. And it is not just about reducing emissions, but it is redefining progress, which is truly, good for our future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amarjeet, for having me here. It was lovely meeting you, speaking to you, and a delight always to speak on sustainability.
The journey of sustainability is just a beginning, and we hope to see many such practices in our construction industry. And to my viewers, thank you very much for joining us. Stay tuned for the next episode, and signing out, India at 100, Season 3, Growing Responsibly and Safely. Thank you.